My name is Victor Cha. I'm a professor of government here at Georgetown and the director of Asian Studies, and I teach in the MSFS program. I've been there since 1995. So the main course I teach is the International Relations Theory and Practice course, which is the core gateway course for all first-year students when they come into the program to give them a grounding in international relations. The IR course that is given to MSFS students is known as MSFS 510, and it is a course designed to both introduce students to some of the main theoretical readings in how we study international relations, as well as introduce them to how theory helps us to think about real policy issues in the world today. It is probably considered to be the flagship course for the MSFS program, and so I'm very proud and happy to have a chance to teach it. And it is 15 weeks of intensive reading, some writing, a lot of discussion and presentation on the part of the students. One of the recent innovations in the way we teach MSFS 510 is that in addition to the regular sessions that each of the IR scholars have with the students, we introduced 4 combined sections this year where all the different sections, the 4 sections of MSFS 510, would come together for a lecture by other faculty at the School of Foreign Service. These faculty are renowned experts in their field, including our Dean, Carol Lancaster, who did a section on international development, Professor Michael Green, who did a section on Asia and China's rise, Professor Colin Kael, who talked about Iraq and Iran, and International Law by Tony Aaron. These are all recognized experts in their field. Many of them have very high-level policy experience. Green, for example, worked in the White House on Asia. Carol Lancaster was number 2 at USAID on development issues. Colin Kael was at the Department of Defense as Deputy Assistant Secretary. So this we consider to be a real opportunity for the students not to hear from their own professors, but also sample some of the other faculty that teach at Georgetown in the MSFS and other graduate programs. I think the thing I like the most about teaching MSFS students when I get them is that they're in their first semester. All of them obviously have done undergraduate education. But they have all come in having made the decision to leave whatever area they were working in, private sector, public sector, government, NGOs. They made the decision to take off time from work and reinvest in themselves. So when I get them in the first semester, they are enthusiastic, they are excited, and they're very serious because they've made the decision to absorb the opportunity cost of leaving the workforce and coming back and retooling, reinvesting. So it's a real pleasure actually to teach these students in their first semester because they're really a group that's ready to learn, and that's quite enjoyable. Well, I think the biggest issue domestically will be to deal with the debt and to deal with our economic recovery. But that is also very much linked to what I think is the biggest foreign policy challenge, and that is how the United States deals with China's rise. China is the only country in the international system for the next generation that is likely to potentially compete with the United States, both in terms of size of economy and overall size of the country. And I think the Obama administration understands this, and since their first term has tried to find the right strategy for bringing China into the role of a stakeholder in the international system, while at the same time allowing them to be able to help make some of the new rules the international system of which they will be a major player. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be rocky. Anytime you're dealing with a rising power like China, just as the United States was when it was rising, it's going to be rambunctious. It's going to have very sharp elbows, but the Obama administration, I think, has been working very hard on this for the past 4 years, and I'm optimistic that they will find a happy medium in terms of how to both accommodate whatever some of China's needs, but at the same time shape and mold them in a productive direction as a responsible stakeholder in the international system. I served on the National Security Council as Director of Asian Affairs from 2004 to 2007. I took 3 years off, public service leave from Georgetown to do this. Georgetown, which has a healthy tradition of public service, was very kind in granting me that leave. And my work was largely focused on Asia, East Asia, Japan, Korea, to some extent China. It involved a lot of travel, a lot of staffing for the President, the Vice President, and the National Security Advisor, and of course the dealing with the interagency here in Washington. I think the way that the White House experience changed me as a scholar and as a teacher the most was it gave me perspective, in the sense that as someone who works on foreign policy and international relations and scholarship, it allowed me to have the perspective to see what we think about in terms of theory and what really happens in terms of practice. And sometimes there's a huge gap there, but sometimes they're very much interlinked. And I think the training that I have as an academic, the training that MSFS students get at Georgetown in terms of how to think causally and rigorously about international relations and foreign policy is a very useful tool in the policy-making world. So I came back from that experience quite appreciative of the training that I got and wanted to be able to impart that training onto the students that I have in the classroom. Well, it's going to be difficult to say how well the Georgetown team does. We lost some good players. I'm a big fan, season ticket holder now, ever since I came back from the White House, season ticket holder now for 8 years, along with other MSFS and Georgetown faculty. We all sit sort of in the same section. They've got a lot of young players. But I think the best thing about the Georgetown basketball program is the coach. Coach John Thompson III. Coach Thompson has just been fantastic. He's a great leader for the team. He's a great role model for the kids. And the kids on the team are just a really fantastic group. And they learn the Georgetown way, both in terms of being on the court, unselfish play, and then off the court in terms of rigorous education and public service. And so that's kind of a long way of saying I don't know how the team's going to do this year. But they surprised us last year, I expect that with this group of sophomores and freshmen and a couple of juniors that they may go pretty far.